Welcome comic book fans, and thanks for tuning in to Potbelly Gamers hashtag Pullthis for the week of Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017. I'm your host, Glenn Kremp, aka Leafs and Six, and this is our weekly segment where we get to go to the comic shop. I buy a whole bunch of comics and then share with you kind of what I really enjoyed for my top picks this week. First up, I'm going to go Batman Detective Comics 951. This is the first part to the League of Shadows introduction. And in this comic alone, we get to see Lady Shiva. Yes, the lady assassin in the DC universe. She comes to play and decides she's going to take on Batman. Now, the events before, if you've been reading Detective Comics, had Batwoman taking on her dad, the Colonel, and his group, the Colony. Now, what we found out in this comic is the Colony has actually been trying to stop the League of Shadows from coming into Gotham to take over. And we have a really good setup in this comic. I do like the first few panels where it is Lady Shiva kind of giving that torture scenario to one of the Marine guys, and she finds out from him what's going on, and just her badass self. And we haven't seen her in a while in the comic, so it's really fun to see. But also the impending doom coming to Gotham City, because as we've seen in the previous Detective comic books, Batman stopped Kathy Kane, or Batwoman's father, and put him in jail, and he was actually trying to do the fight fire with fire. So in a weird way, this is almost what happens when Batman does too much good, and now he has an even better impending doom coming to Gotham City. There seem to be a lot of good callbacks, especially to the 1989 Batman movie. There's a good scene where we have two reporters talking, and obviously a toxin comes and gives them kind of the Joker face, and we see that kind of happening in the comic, which really made me feel like the 1989 Batman, which is kind of nice. But again, we have the whole group together, which has been with Detective Comics, and they're about to take on Lady Shiva and the League of Shadows. Next up, we go Marvel and Elektra #1 from the Running with the Devil series. Now this is kind of good. I did like the artwork in this. It was very, I don't want to say basic, but very strong colors and kind of good. So we do have Elektra, who's kind of taken herself to Las Vegas, and kind of in the same ways we've seen with Bullseye #1, she also is kind of bored and trying to escape her past in a way. What happens here is she befriends a bartender in Vegas, and then we kind of find out that she's getting a little roughed up from the people she works for, which pretty much brings Elektra back out to kind of defend her. I do like some of the interaction between Elektra and the bartender. I think her name was Lauren. When Lauren does ask Elektra, in disguise obviously, who she is, she considers herself a corporate headhunter, which is always kind of nice. Again, a lot of fun action in this. We have Elektra in her size taking on a bunch of guns, which you know is pretty good. And again, the ending of it is pretty nice. We do see Screwball, and at the very last panel we do see that it's Arcade that's kind of controlling the inner workings of Vegas and setting everything up for what's to come with Elektra #1. Also, the other one coming out this week was Loose Ends #2. Now if you go all the way back to one of our original, we don't have many yet, but if you go back, I did review Loose Ends #1, which is a really good comic. I really enjoyed it much. Unfortunately, I will say Loose Ends #2, crazy enough, ties up some loose ends. So we more get the backstories of the characters going into this, from pretty much the slaughter that happened in the bar that they all worked with. We do see that they all kind of went to school together, and we kind of get that from Loose Ends #1. The beginning also introduces to maybe another villain that's happening in this, or I shouldn't say villain, but another bad guy called Robin Hood. Not like he's Robin the Hood. And that's a pretty graphic takedown, kind of in a Gangland style, where very much pretty graphically showing him, the guy taking people out with shotguns and stuff like that. All roads seem to be leading to Miami in Loose Ends #2, so I'm pretty excited to see where that goes. Again, Loose Ends is only a 4-issue series, and it's been pretty enjoyable. Again, the art is a very interesting style of art. I did enjoy it very much. I just want to give one quick shout out. If everyone did last week, if you picked up the Captain America, you got this huge surprise at the end and that would pretty much be, well, now that it's been a week, I'll ruin it, is Taskmaster and Black Ant seen on surveillance video Captain America Steve Rogers giving the Hail Hydra sign. This is a continuation, Captain America Steve Rogers number 12 of that. It's pretty good. I think, again, it's not a top pick, but again, if you were grabbing stuff last week, I would suggest maybe just picking that up, and you can find out what happens with Taskmaster and Black Ant going to Maria Hill, who has been kind of ousted from S.H.I.E.L.D., and them talking to her about, hey, this is what we discovered. Alright, and that's my pull list for this week. Please tune in to Potbelly Gamers, our podcast on the allgames.com radio network, every Friday night live, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we discuss lots of fun and crazy stuff, like, heck, maybe even this week's Flash episode where Flash and his Scooby Gang head over to Gorilla City. What an awesome episode that was. I also want to thank Washikong for their great support, and as always, I want to say, please get out to your local comic book shop and help support them. Without them, we wouldn't get these great titles that we get to have every week. Thank you. See you next week.
Boom.
Is that alright?
Yeah, that's good.